Good morning, class. So now we'll continue with the animal tissues. The plant tissues we have discussed in the previous class, and also the epithelial tissue, but we'll start with the epithelial tissue only. So this is the brief classification of tissues. The animal tissues are divided into four types, mainly the epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscular, and the nervous tissue. Now again, the epithelial tissue is divided into squamous, cuboidal, columnar, as well as ciliated, and the stratified squamous tissues. Now the connective tissue, what is it divided into? The areolar and the adipose, then comes the skeletal and the fluid. So the skeletal consists of the bone and the cartilage that provides a framework to our body. Then the fluid, it comprises of the blood and lymph. Then the areolar, it composed of tendon and ligament. So the function of tendon and ligament is to connect bone to bone and bone to muscle. So these are the joining tissues in our body. Then the muscle or the muscular tissues, they are divided into three types: the striated, the smooth, and the cardiac. So now we'll talk about the epithelial tissues. So these are the major tissues which form the covering. So these are the tissues which are protective in nature, and the cells of these tissues are very tightly packed. That means कोई भी intercellular spaces नहीं present होती है इनमें, और ये बहुत आस पास present होते हैं, so as to prevent any kind of transfer between these tissues. And the cells of these epithelium tissues are also having some very minute cavities within the body. इसमें जो मसल होती है, इनकी जो सेल्स होती हैं, इनमें कोई भी स्पेसेस नहीं होते हैं बिटवीन दो सेल्स के बीच, मगर जो सेल्स होते हैं उनमें कुछ कैविटीज़ होती हैं. दैट मीन्स दो सेल्स के बीच में कोई स्पेस नहीं, बट एक सेल के अंदर थोड़ी थोड़ी माइन्यूट कैविटीज़ होती हैं. This is for the purpose of the secretion. Like epithelial tissue, for example, is the skin in our body, so it also secretes out the sweat. So how does sweat will secrete out? There should be presence of some pores, and these pores are present in the epithelial tissues. The epithelial tissues is not present or not floating on the blood, but ये एक basement membrane पे present होता है. So I'll show you in the diagram what is the basement membrane. This is said to be the basement membrane, and this basement membrane contains a protein, collagen, and this collagen protein is the most abundant protein of the animal kingdom. So now the epithelial tissues may be simple, that is may be composed of only single layer. This is only single layer, that is the simple epithelial tissues, and then this is made up of many single layers, and when many single layers are combined together, it forms the stratified. So stratification means one upon another. Arrangement of one upon another layer of the cell is called as stratification. So there is also division on the basis of the cell shape, but first we'll talk about the functions of epithelial tissues. So the cells of the body surface, that is the epidermis, form the outer layer of the skin. So outer layer of the skin is made up of the epidermis tissue, and these epidermis tissue protect the underlying cells. Underlying cells मतलब जो cells skin के नीचे present होते हैं, उनको ये epithelial tissue protect करता है from any injury or any chemical effects like the UV radiation that is coming from the sun. So it also, the skin, it also protects from the damaging of any kind of internal organs, and this tissue is the main function of it is in the protection. They also form the lining of the mouth and alimentary canal and protect these organs also. So inside our body also the epithelial tissues are present, that is they are forming the lining of the mouth and also the alimentary canal lining. So these also protect the internal organs. Now epithelial tissues also help in the absorption of water and nutrients, and epithelial tissues also help in the elimination of waste products like sweat. Sweat is the elimination of extra amount of water as well as salt, so it is secreted out or eliminated out from the skin. Then some epithelial tissues perform secretory functions. They secrete a variety of substances, for example the sweat, the saliva, as well as some enzymes. So now we'll talk about the types of epithelial tissue on the basis of their shape. So the first is squamous epithelium, then the cuboidal, then comes the columnar, glandular, as well as the ciliated. In the picture you can see the four types of tissues. These are on the basis of their structure. So this is the squamous, the shape is in the squamous form. This is cuboidal and This is the columnar. It is a 3D picture, and from the outside it are represented as these when present all together, then you can see how they are arranged, and presence of many cells is called as to be stratification. So first is the squamous epithelium. So what is the nature of the squamous epithelium? It is made up of thin, flat and irregular shaped cells which are fitted together like floor tiles. So we have seen the tiles on the floor. So जो squamous epithelium होते हैं वो उसी तरीके से present होते हैं, और इस वजह से स्क्वामस एपिथेलियम को हम लोग पेवमेंट एपिथेलियम भी कहते हैं. सो द अकरेंस वेयर दे अकर, सो दीज स्क्वामस एपिथेलियम दे फॉर्म द डेलिकेट लाइनिंग ऑफ कैविटीज. कहाँ की कैविटीज? माउथ कैविटीज, ईसोफेगस इज ऑल्सो कॉल्ड द फूड पाइप, देन द नोज एंड पेरिकार्डियम एज वेल एज एल्वोलाई. ऑल दीज कैविटीज आर बीइंग लाइन्ड बाय द स्क्वामस एपिथेलियम. इवन द ब्लड वेसल्स एंड द कवरिंग ऑफ द टंग एंड स्किन, these are also covered by the squamous epithelium. Then we'll talk about the stratified keratinized squamous epithelium. What does the keratinized means now? This is found in the skin. This keratinized squamous epithelium skin में present होता है. Keratinized मतलब ये presence of keratin होता है. Keratin is a type of protein which is dead, and that's why it is present on the skin, and it covers the external dry surface of the skin. So the cells of this tissue are arranged in many layers. Stratified means many layers. So the deeper layers of the tissue have cuboidal cells which become polygonal and finally flattened. So पहले ये cuboidal होते हैं, but as we go deeper and deeper, then these the shape changes and they become the form of squamous. As they become slightly flattened, you can see just the difference is that the cuboidal when becomes flattened becomes squamous. So the deeper cells are becoming squamous due to the change in shape, and the flattened cells of the superficial layer contain a fibrous protein. So what is the fibrous protein? Keratin, and it becomes the dead cell. Whenever the keratin protein is present anywhere, the cell will become dead. So now the horns and the scale like remains of the dead squamous cells ultimately flakes away. So we can see there is molting in the case of snake, that they just throw out their skin and the new skin grows onto them. So this is what the keratin does. The keratin is helpful in removing of the extra layer of skin, and the new skin which is more soft will appear. So now we'll talk about the cuboidal epithelium. So what is the nature of the cuboidal epithelium? It consists of the cube-like cells which are of square in shape, and but the free surface appear hexagonal. So these are square in shape, but the free surface, this upper surface, this is free and no upper cell is present on that. That's why it is, you can see it is hexagonal, having 6 sides. Now what is the occurrence, where they occur? The cuboidal epithelium is found in kidney tubules, thyroid vesicles, in glands, which glands it is found in? The salivary glands, sweat glands and the exocrine gland. Now it also forms the germinal epithelium of gonads. What are the gonads? The testes in males and ovaries in females. What is the function of the cuboidal epithelium? It helps in absorption, excretion and secretion. It also provides mechanical support. Okay, now then we'll talk about the columnar epithelium. What is the nature of columnar epithelium? The columnar epithelium consists of cells which are taller than broader, means they are more tall but less broader. They are like pillar shape. The nuclei are towards the base. You can see in the diagram the nuclei is present at the base, and the nuclei are mostly 1 in number, and they have brush border containing microvilli. Though now what is microvilli? Microvilli are small cilia-like structures. They are mainly for the absorption purposes. That is, they increase the absorptive area of anything whenever they are present. So if they are present in the food pipe anywhere, they are present in the intestine also for increasing the absorption of the food, and that's why microvilli are also present in the columnar epithelium. So now where these columnar epithelium occurs, they form the lining of the stomach, small intestine and colon, and also form the mucous membrane. It also forms the lining of gallbladder and the oviducts and facilitates movement across the cells. Because of these microvilli that are cilia-like structures, they help in the movement, easy movement, because they move and they help whatever the things to be have to be passed. These cilia-like cells, which are microvilli, helps in the movement of that particular thing. Now the main function is absorption. As I told you, the microvilli presence helps in more absorption and more secretion as well. Now we'll talk about the glandular epithelium. So the columnar epithelium is often modified to form glands, and when the columnar epithelium gets modified, they only become the glandular epithelium. Now the ciliated epithelium cells. The nature of these are, they are certain cells are cuboid or columnar, and they have a free border which bear thread-like cytoplasmic outgrowths like cilia. So whenever the cuboidal or the columnar cells contain cilia on them, they become ciliated epithelium. So the ciliated epithelium mostly are found in the sperm ducts. The ciliated columnar these epithelium also lines the trachea, that is the windpipe, lungs and kidney tubules, as well as the oviduct, that is the fallopian tube in the case of females. The function is, as cilia are present, then they help in the rhythmic concerted beating of the cilia, and so that the solid particles, whatever is present, it helps in easy movement of that particle. So now we'll talk about the connective tissue. So I told you the connective tissue, it is also of two types. The connective tissue is specialized to connect and anchor various body organs. What does the anchoring means? Anchoring means holding up something tightly. So the function of connective tissue is to connect two things and anchoring various body organs. The tissues can connect bones to each other, muscles to bones. What is the function? That the ligaments and tendons. So the ligaments connects bone to bone, and the tendons connects the muscle to bone. So the connective tissue are mainly for providing connection. So they also provide support to the various parts of the body by creating a packing around organs. So they create a packing around the organs, and they provide the support to the various body parts. The packing would prevent the organs from getting displaced. That is, that if all the organs are present in the blood, so they can easily move from one place to another, but this connective tissue helps in not providing any movements, because they form a package around the organ, and now the organ is intact at its particular place. So now the main function of connective tissue is binding, supporting and packaging. So now the cells of connective tissue are living separated from each other, and they are lower in number. They can be homogeneous, gel-like intercellular substances. The intercellular substances that is present in these is matrix, and it forms the main bulk of the connective tissue. So matrix is the main bulk, providing fluid that is present in the connective tissues, which helps the connective tissue in doing its particular function, that is providing connection and also providing the anchoring to the various body organs. So the matrix is fibrous in nature, that is there are fibers present in the matrix, and it binds the other tissues together. So in fact the nature of matrix decide the function of the connective tissue. That is, whatever the nature of the matrix is there, that will decide what kind of function the connective tissue will perform. So the connective tissue contains many types of cells, like the fibroblast cell. They form the ground substance and fibers. And what are the fibers? It forms the collagen. Now adipose cells, they store fats, lipids in their vacuoles. The macrophages, they may be free moving or fixed phagocytes. The phagocytes are the those structures that are capable of engulfing any foreign particle if it is entered in the body. So macrophages is mostly the WBCs. WBCs capture the particles that have entered the body and they are foreign to the body. This process is called as diapedesis. Now the mast cells, it is also a type of connective tissue. They secrete substances like heparin. Heparin is an anticoagulant, and histamine, that is a vasodilator. What's a vasodilator? So the vasodilator are the substances that helps in the relaxation of the blood vessels to help the blood flow easily. And there is serotonin also, which is a vasoconstrictor, which helps in the narrowing or the thinning of the blood vessels. So they promote the inflammation of the infected area. Like mast cells are mostly present in those areas. If some area is getting infected by any bacteria or any harmful microorganism, then these aggregate at that place and causes the inflammation, so that we can know that yes, this place is to be taken care of. Now, what are the types of connective tissues? In the first slide only I told you what are the different types of connective tissues. The areolar, these are the loose connective tissues, then the dense regular connective tissue, then comes the adipose tissue, and then the skeletal and fluid connective tissue. So what are areolar tissues? The areolar tissues, as the name suggests itself, this tissue is a loose and cellular connective tissue. Its matrix is the ground substance. It is of two kinds, the white collagen fibers and the yellow elastin fibers. So they are also scattered in matrix, and they are of several irregular cells. So the shape is not very particular, they are of various shapes, and some of these cells also engulf bacteria and prevent the infection. So this process, or this is done by the macrophages. So the macrophages are an example of areolar connective tissue. Where is the occurrence of these? It is the simplest and most widely distributed connective tissue. It joins the skin to muscles, and it also fills the spaces inside organs and is found around muscles, blood vessels and nerves. Now, the dense regular connective tissue, it is a fibrous connective tissue. Wherever there is something dense present, that is in concentrated form, there will be always present of fibers. So fibers are mostly for providing the strength as well as support to the place wherever they are present. So dense regular connective tissue are fibrous connective tissue. They are characterized by ordered and densely packed collection of fibers and cells, and dense regular connective tissue is the principal component of tendons and ligaments. So the main component that are providing the tendons and ligaments the ability to connect the bone and bone to muscle is the presence of this fibers. These are the dense fibers which help tendons and ligaments to perform their function. Now, the adipose tissue. So the nature of this tissue is basically it is an aggregation of fat cells. It is also called as adipocyte. The site word is mostly used for the cells. Adipo is the term that is used for fat. So the fat accumulation or the aggregation is called the adipocytes. So each fat cell is round or oval in shape and contains a very large droplet of fat that almost fills it. So the adipose tissue are basically a aggregation of fat cells. Many fat cells, when present at one place, they form the adipose tissue. The adipose tissue is abundant, and where they are present in abundant amount, below the skin, between the internal organs, that is around the kidneys, and in the yellow bone marrow. So the function of the adipocyte is the storage of the fat reservoir or the fat cell. So what is the function of adipocyte? When at the time of fasting, they help in the providing energy by dissolving the fat contents that is present below the skin, and the first thing to get dissolved is the fat, and then comes the carbohydrate, and the last is the protein. So fat reservoir are very important when we are out of food or during the fasting condition. Then it also provides shape to the limbs and the body. It keeps the visceral organs in position. What are the visceral organs? The visceral organs like heart is a visceral organ, so it keeps those organs in position, and it also forms the shock or absorbing cushions around kidneys and eyeballs. Shock absorbing means that if there will be an enormous amount of fat present around the organs, then if we receive some shock or any kind of accident or something, then these will help to keep these organs in position wherever they are present. They also act as an insulator, that is, they are a poor conductor of heat. Then it reduces the heat loss from body and also regulates the body temperature. As we all know that we are hemothermic. There are mainly two types of organisms, the hemothermic and the poikilothermic. So we are hemotherm, that is, we maintain a constant body temperature. So these fat deposition helps a lot in keeping that body temperature maintained. Now, what are the skeletal tissue? It is also a type of connective tissue. The skeletal tissues or the supporting tissue includes the cartilage and bone, and it forms the endoskeleton of the vertebrate body. So the cartilage The nature of the cartilage is it is a specialized connective tissue which is compact and less vascular. Less vascular means there is less supply of blood vessels, so the cartilage is mainly present in the ear pinna and the nose. It has widely spaced out cells, that is the cells are present in loose position, that is they are not very compact. Its extensive matrix is composed of proteins and is slightly hardened by calcium salts. So the calcium salts is present in the matrix of the cartilage, and its matrix is produced and maintained by the chondrocytes. So chondrocytes are a type of cells which help in the formation of matrix in the cartilage. The matrix is solid, cheese-like and firm, but also slightly elastic. So the occurrence of the cartilage is located in the parts where like ear pinna, nose tip, epiglottis and the intervertebral disc, even at the end of the bones and lower ends of the ribs and the rings of the trachea. So this is the position where the occurrence of cartilage will be there. The function is it provides support and flexibility to the body parts. It also smoothens surface at joints. Now the bone. The bone is very strong and non-flexible tissue. Like cartilage, bone is a specialized connective tissue. It is porous, highly vascular, mineralized, hard and rigid. So the bone matrix of the bone is in the form of thin concentric rings called lamina. So in the bones, the matrix is present in the form of rings, and these rings are called as lamellae, and bone cells are called as osteoblasts, although osteocytes, these are present between these lamellae, which is the rings of the matrix, and also called as lacuna. So the function of the bone is to form the endoskeleton in human beings and other vertebrates except the sharks. So in sharks they do not form the endoskeleton. It also, the bones provide shape to the body, provide skeletal support to the body, protects the vital organs such as brain, lungs, etc. And they also serve as storage site of calcium and phosphate. So in bone, the minerals that are present in the maximum amount are the calcium and phosphate, and the bones also anchors the muscles. So now what is the difference between bone and cartilage? The bone is hard and flexible, and the cartilage is just flexible, it is not very hard. The bone is porous and the cartilage is non-porous. Then the blood vessels are present in the bone, but in the cartilage the blood vessels are absent. So the matrix is made up of the protein and mineral salts in the case of bone, that is calcium and phosphate, but in the cartilage the matrix is made up of just the protein. There are no presence of calcium or phosphate. Now we'll talk about the fluid connective tissue, that is the lymph and the blood. So the fluid connective tissues links the different parts of the body and maintains a continuity in the body. That means whatever the blood is flowing to the head, the same blood is flowing till the toe. So this is the continuity in the body, and this is maintained by the fluid that are blood and lymph. So blood is a fluid connective tissue. In this tissue, cells move in a fluid or liquid matrix or a medium called blood plasma. So blood plasma is the fluid part of the blood, and it contains some cells, that is the RBCs, WBCs and the platelets. So the pigment that provides the red color to the blood is hemoglobin. Then the WBCs are the phagocytes, that is they engulf whatever the foreign materials are there. So basically they are the main component of the immune system of our body. The platelets is present at the time of whenever the injury is there, the platelets form the clot by the using a factor, that is prothrombin, and calcium is the main element that is used at the time of blood clotting. Now what is the function of blood? Blood transport nutrients, hormones and vitamins to the tissues, and also transports the excretory products from the tissues to the liver and kidney, and from the liver and kidney they are being excreted out of the body. Now the RBCs carry oxygen to the tissues for the oxidation of foodstuff. We all know the oxidation is the process which is very much useful for the utilization of energy that is we are getting by eating food. So that work is done by the RBCs, as it carries oxygen, and oxygen is utilized in the oxidation process. The WBCs fight diseases either by engulfing or destroying foreign bodies, or by producing antitoxins or antibodies. So antibodies, what are antibodies? Antibodies are those things that are produced as an defense mechanism whenever any antigen has entered into the body. So it is a function of the of our body only, and this function is done or accomplished by the WBCs. It is present inside the blood, and the blood platelets, they disintegrate at the site of injury and help in the clotting of blood. Now what is the lymph? The lymph is a colorless fluid that is filtered out of the blood capillaries. Since it is also a part of blood, its composition is similar to that of blood, except there is no presence of RBCs, and also some blood proteins are absent, and WBCs, they are found in very much abundance in the case of lymph, but RBCs are absent. So the function is lymph transports the nutrients, that is oxygen, glucose, that may have filtered out of the blood capillaries back into the heart to be recirculated in the body. So there are some nutrients like oxygen and glucose which are very much important, but in some case they get filtered out, and these filtered out important nutrients are being taken back by the lymph so that they can be recirculated into the body. The lymph brings about carbon dioxide and nitrogenous waste from tissue fluid to the blood, and the lymph are being loaded with WBCs, that is the WBCs are present in a great amount. Then the lymph also is acting in the defense mechanism of the body, that is providing immunity to the body. So this was all the connective tissues in the body. Now we'll talk about the muscular tissues. So the muscular tissues are mainly for providing the framework, and these are of three types. The muscular tissues. So the muscular tissues are providing framework as well as movement to the body. The muscle tissues or the muscles of the body form the contractile tissue and are made up of muscle cells. The muscle cells are elongated as well as they are large sized, and these are called the muscle fibers. The movements of the body or limbs are brought about by the contraction and the relaxation of these contractile proteins which are present in the muscle cells. So muscle cells contain some protein, and the contraction and relaxation of these helps in the movement. The movement of the internal organs such as heart and alimentary canal are also caused by the muscle fibers or the muscle tissues. The muscle cells are typically arranged in parallel along them to work together efficiently. So means that they are present in parallel position, that is one after another, so that they can work efficiently. On the basis of the location, structure and function, there are following three types: the striated muscles, smooth as well as cardiac. So the striated muscles, they are said to be striped, that is they contain some stripes. These are the stripes, that are stratifications that are present in the striated muscles. That's why they are named as striated, because they are striped, and they are voluntary. Voluntary means we have a control on these, since the entire muscle fibers show alternate dark and light stripes. These are the stripes, you can see the dark and light stripes are present, and they are called striped muscles also. So since they are attached to the bones and are responsible for body movement, they are called as skeletal muscles. And lastly, since these provide muscle work according to our will, they are called as the voluntary muscles. So what is the function of these? Striated muscles are powerful and undergo rapid contraction. These muscles can get tired and may need rest. The striated muscles also provide the force for locomotion and also for other voluntary movements of the body. Voluntary movements are those which are under our own will, like we are moving hands and foot, that is under our control. So these striated muscles are responsible for these functions. Now the smooth muscles or the unstriated. Unstriated, as the name suggests, they do not contain any these stratifications like present in the striated cells. These are involuntary, that is we do not have any control upon these. Then the shape is elongated or the spindle shape. So this is the spindle shape muscles, and the fluid present inside the muscle cells is the sarcoplasm. The occurrence of these smooth cells are found in the walls of visceral organs except that of the heart. So these are visceral muscles. They do not occur in the parts like hand and legs, which we can move by our own will, but they are present internally, the organs on which we do not have any of our control. So the smooth muscles do not contract according to our own will, and they are involuntary. So the movement of food in the alimentary canal, opening and closing of the tubes, are involuntary movements, and these are being performed by these unstriated muscles. Smooth muscles are also responsible for the peristaltic movement. Now, what is peristaltic movement? The movement in the esophagus when the mouth in the mouth the food first enters, and there occurs the 30% digestion. Now, the mouth contains the enzymes, and when the food mix up with that enzyme, it is called as bolus. And when that bolus goes down through the esophagus into the stomach, then that movement is somewhat parallel, and that is some for a while the food moves upwards and then it moves downwards. This is the peristaltic movement, and this is being done by the unstraighted muscles. Then comes the cardiac muscles. Cardiac muscles show characteristics of both the smooth and the straighted muscles. Cardiac muscles are composed of branched fibers, and the branches join to form a network. You can see these are joined together and they form a network. Each fiber or cell is surrounded by sarcolemma, a cytoplasm, that is sarcoplasm also. And the occurrence of these is they are present in the heart. So the name itself suggests the cardiac, and that's why they are present in the heart. Cardiac muscles contract and relax rapidly, rhythmically, and tirelessly throughout a lifetime. That means the cardiac muscles never stop, and they continue to move for till the life is there in any living organism. The contraction and relaxation of the heart muscles help to pump and distribute blood to the various parts of the body. Okay, now we'll talk about last, that is the nervous. So the cells of the nervous tissues are called nerve cells or neurons. Many nerve cells are bound by connective tissue, and these connective tissue combine together to make a nerve. And nerve, you all know, that is the longest cell in our body. So the nervous tissue is a tissue which is specialized to transmit messages within our body. Then what are the constituents of the nervous tissue? The brain, spinal cord, and the nerves are all composed and comes under the nervous tissue. Nervous tissue contains highly specialized unit cells. For the nerve cells and neurons have the ability to receive stimuli from within or outside the body and to conduct impulses to different parts of the body. Stimuli means whenever any whenever we get any feeling from outside, that is if we touch something hot, we immediately remove our hand. That is because of the signal that are transferred from the nerve cells that transfer from brain to the different parts, and also from different parts to the brain. So the each neuron is composed of three parts: the cyton, which is the cell body. This is the cyton, it is the body of the cell, which contains a central nucleus. This is the nucleus, and cytoplasm is also present around it. Then the characteristic is it is deeply stained particles called the Nissl granules. So there are some very much deeply stained. That means whenever we stain a nerve cell around the nucleus and in the cytoplasm, there will be presence of some very much deeply stained particles that appear to be darker when viewed under the microscope. So these are called the Nissl granules. The Nissl granules are nothing but clumps of ribosomes. That is, when ribosomes are present in aggregation together, they form the Nissl granules. And the second part is the dendrons, which are a short processing. They arise from the cyton, that is the cell body, and these dendrites are arising from the cell body only. These are the second parts. And when the branching goes on and on, they become from dendrons to dendrites. Then the axon, it is a single long cylindrical, this is axon, cylindrical process of the uniform diameter. It forms the branches terminally. These are the terminal branches, and each such twig-like branch of the axon ends in the Solin structure, and these Solin structure are called nerve endings or the synaptic knob. Knob means they appear to be as knob of the in those you must have seen knob like structures. The knobs are present, and that's why they resemble those. These are called as the synaptic knob. The function of these is the dendrites receive impulses, and the axon takes the impulses and away from the cell body to the brain. The difference between the axon and dendrite is that the axon is long, uniformly thickened fiber, and it forms the processes of the neuron, and the dendrites is short and tapering process of the neuron. So the axon is long and it is tapering, that is it bends at the ends, and these are not very long also. Now the axon, it is covered with a sheath. The sheath is present, the medullary sheath, and the main function of the medullary sheath is to protect the nerve cells from any shock. But in the dendrites, the sheath is not present. So in axon, the Nissl granules are absent, but in the case of the dendrites, the nasal granules are present. The nasal granules are the clumps of ribosome, and these are present in the dendrites but completely absent in the axons. So the main function of axon is that it carries impulses away from the cell body, and the function of dendrite is that it carries impulses towards the cell body. So they function in a vice versa way, that is, towards the cell body the axon takes the impulses, and away from the cell body, that is, the dendrites takes the impulses. So this is the end of your chapter, that is the tissues. Now we'll start with